when you forget to add a key character trait to Kaneki that dives into his inner psyche when he is lying. Oof. Now, despite what I just said, and what I'm going to say when it comes to me comparing the manga and anime of Tokyo Ghoul Re, I will say that this episode of Tokyo Ghoul was probably the best episode of the entire anime. Yes, I'm counting Season 1, Season 2, and now Tokyo Ghoul Re. However, it's not really a fair comparison because the first two seasons are absolute garbage, so I guess take that however you will. The way the pacing was done with this episode, it was definitely a step in the right direction for the anime. And if Studio Clown can make more episodes like this and try to refine it a little bit more, I do believe that we could potentially have a good, yes, good, quotations, good anime adaptation of Tokyo Ghoul. And I really hope that is what exactly happens. However, there is also, once again, some concerns I have with this episode. Let's talk about the visuals. That is something that really needs to be discussed because I noticed it while watching this episode that the visuals were good in some places and bad in others. Now, to start off, I want to talk about the scene with Toka and her manga equivalent. Now, in the anime, Toka, she looks more like her anime version, or her part 1 self. You can see with the purple hair, the way her hair is down and all that, she looks like how she was in the original series, part 1. However, if you know anything about the manga version of Toka, for instance, part 2, then you will know that she has blue hair. You can even see on this cover, like, you can legit see she has blue hair. This is volume 2 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, and right now, we just literally adapted the full volume of Tokyo Ghoul Re Volume 1, and at the end of this volume, you have it to where Toka pops up, and Kaneki gets to see her. So, overall, the biggest flaw right now, I would say, about this episode, besides what I said at the start with the whole character trait of Kaneki, is definitely the hair. And I know many are going to look at this and say, Chibi, it's just a hair color, okay? It's just, her hair should be blue, but it's purple. Just let it go. It's not that crazy. And in a lot of ways, I would agree with you. I mean, the whole debate when it came to Trunks and stuff for Dragon Ball Super, I remember that was a big thing in the community. Everybody was talking about that. Everybody was like, holy crap, you know, why is Trunks' hair, like, blue now when it was a different color in Dragon Ball Z? And, you know, that didn't really bug me as much, because at the end of the day, the hairstyle change, like, the color of it, did not matter to the story of Dragon Ball Super. However, when it comes to Tokyo Ghoul Re, Toka's hair color is actually relevant to a scene in the future, which I will show on screen. As I said, I'm not really trying to cater to anime onlys. I'm not doing that, okay? The dyeing of the hair, many might say it's not relatively that important. But the thing is, later on, like around chapter 100 and like 22, 23, somewhere around in there, you have it to where Toka mentions that she dyed her hair, and Kaneki acknowledges it like it's very nostalgic. Oh my god, this hairstyle and all that, you know, he mentions it, and the reason for this scene, she wanted Kaneki to notice her and compliment her hair color. That's the big point of that, because that scene directly leads into where she asks the big question to Kaneki, are you a virgin? And she eventually beds Kaneki. So, yeah, the whole hair color thing, it has a lot of weight for that scene in the future, and it's set up for that. So with the hair color being like it is now, I'm just like, really, Studio Clown, can you not do your research or whatever and know that if you just look at the cover of Volume 2 that you're adapting, she has blue hair? Is that blue or am I colorblind? I mean, seriously. It's not even talking about how her hair design doesn't really look good at all compared to her manga equivalent if you see these two, you know, like images right here. Now, this isn't anything big, and honestly, in a lot of ways, it's nitpicking. I will admit this part is nitpicking right here, but it is something that, honestly, I was a little bit disappointed with when I didn't see the shocked look of Yomo when he saw Heise Sasaki just walk into, you know, the cafe. He didn't have that, like, oh crap, like, face. He just had this, like, very deadpan, serious look looking at Heise Sasaki, and I was a little bit disappointed with that. That's nothing big. That really isn't anything big at all. I personally admit that, but that was a big difference I noticed with that scene as well. Now, also talking visual-wise of the cafe, here's the visual of the cafe in the manga, and then here you can see from the anime, there's a big difference between these two, and you can see which one is better than the other. So, Kijima and Furuta were introduced in this episode. Episode 2 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, the anime. For the most part, I don't really have a problem with Kijima and Furuta being introduced this early. I don't. The only reason why I have a problem with them being introduced early is not the fact that they were introduced in chapter 33, which is way far into the manga already. For instance, it's in the Rose, Walled Extermination arc, which is pretty far. And I mean, as we all know, we were probably going to be getting that arc anyways, because of how the opening spoils everything with Furuta and all of that. So, I mean, even for some reason, if you were an anime only, Furuta's overall, twist, the twist with Furuta was spoiled right then and there. So, yeah, but Kijima and Furuta, they were introduced on chapter 33 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, which is 2 whole arcs ahead of where we're at currently right now at the beginning of Re, and it feels like, why are you introducing them so early? And like I said, I don't have a problem with them being introduced early. The problem I have is that they introduced these 2 characters early, but they didn't have the time to focus on other key scenes that were relatively important with the first episode. For instance, Mutsuki and her actually being a girl. That was not even really expressed properly in the first episode, and it wasn't even once again dived into in this episode. And it's a very important moment for Mutsuki's character, especially the setup with Torso. And speaking of Torso, there was more key scenes of him cut out within this episode. As I said last week, Torso was relatively important. His investigation, there was more to it. You had it to where Heisei Sasuke had to look more into the Torso investigation. There was more details. Mato, she had to look more into it. And in this episode, we were supposed to see, the hideout. Where Torso is, stationed, what he was doing, how, he had the torsos all throughout his room. It was very grotesque and disgusting. There was supposed to be a little bit more details, but that was completely axed, and most likely, if I had to assume anything, probably for censorship reasons. Speaking of censorship, the Nutcracker stuff that we got in this episode wasn't actually censored. I mean, from what I can tell, it doesn't look censored to me as a manga reader, and I'm like, okay, I honestly didn't think that would actually fly, but apparently it does. So we can have, the whole, S&M stuff going on with Nutcracker, but we can't have, torsos sitting around or something, or a head on a plate. I mean, just saying. Also, there was a little scene with Heisei Sasuke when he was fighting Serpent, Orochi and all that, which is Nishiki. He was supposed to have a hole in his stomach when he was getting impelled, and we didn't actually get to see that when he told all of the QS to stand back and all. He put his hand up. We didn't see the wound in his stomach regen back. We didn't. That was completely censored. So, once again, more censorships from Studio Clown, which, like I said, I don't blame Studio Clown for censorships because that's just how Japan is. It's not their fault for that, and so I will let that slide. I just wanted to point out the censorship of Tokyo Ghoul Re. Also, this scene, when he's like, you don't really want to get to know me. When Heisei Sasuke says this in the episode, it looks pretty cool. I know many are going to get pretty hyped up. However, when you look at the manga and you see this right here, this panel, you will notice, whoa, the art difference. It doesn't even look in the same ballpark. You could tell which one is superior just by looking at it, and I was incredibly upset not to see this facial expression in the anime, because that was something I was looking forward to, actually, because if there's one thing I thought that Studio Clown would do justice, would be the faces to the, the action scenes at the very least, since they want to gear it more towards action lovers and shonen fans than anything else, but they didn't even do that properly. So, yeah. Another quick little scene that was removed from this episode that added a lot of, different levels of detail to Heisei Sasuke's character was that when he promoted Shirazu to squad leader and removed Uri from squad leader, Heisei Sasuke's like, I'm a ghoul, I'll eat you up, and then he walks away. And we don't really get to see anything else from the anime in that moment, but in the manga, that scene actually continues for a few more panels. We see Heisei Sasuke walk into his room alone, gets and closes the door, and he starts crying all alone, which shows that he is burdened by all the weight that's been going on around him. How he failed Artema, how he failed Akira, how he lost control. He just got burdened by all of this. You see the man start to break down and start crying, which was a very critical moment for his character to show that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Heisei Sasuke, even though he was saying that, he's really happy right now, which, let's get right into that. Let's talk about why that detail is very important and why I started this video off with that in the first place. So, the chin touching, okay? This is a very iconic thing when it comes to Tokyo Ghoul, okay? Now, anime onlys might not be completely aware of it because of how the anime was handled. But manga readers are easily going to be able to notice this. And when he was talking to Artema, Kaneki was, he's like, I'm really happy right now. And you see him smile, and he doesn't, show anything wrong. Like, from that scene, it looks very innocent. It looks like he's very happy. But in the manga, he puts his hand on his chin, which means he's lying. Now, the reason why we know he is lying was because a while back in Part 1 Tokyo Ghoul, Hide told Toka, and we as the readers got to see it ourselves, that when Kaneki puts his hand on his chin, he lies. He is not saying what he truly is feeling. So when he put his hand on his chin in the manga, when he says, I'm really happy right now, in reality, he was miserable. He is not happy. He is far from happy. It's not the full truth. So the entire scene, just right there from the anime and manga, is completely different. It does not hold the same weight as how the manga version is, and it really undermines Kaneki's character. I think out of everything, I could let everything slide. I could let the purple hair slide for Toka, but when it comes to the key trait to Kaneki with him putting his hand on his chin, that is something you should not remove, because that is very vital for his character. He is the MC, and if there is one thing that, at least they should make time for, is the scenes with Kaneki. If I had to assume anything, they probably tried to cheap out on animation, most likely. They didn't probably want to animate a hand going up and probably touching his chin, if I had to assume anything, because there was quite a few scenes throughout this episode that also were very cheaped out on, where we didn't get to see Kaneki's expressions when he was either in danger or upset or whatever. We didn't get to see it. I mean, the crying scene and stuff. So most likely, they just didn't want to spend the budget and time and production time and all of that just to animate a hand moving. That's my 2 cents there. So, with all that being said, I know I've complained a lot about this anime adaptation already, and I've complained a lot about episode 2, but since I'm so passionate about the series, I love Tokyo Ghoul so much, I just can't help myself. I really can't, because I want the anime to be better. I want it to be amazing. I really do, because I love Tokyo Ghoul. I really love it. And I think if you've known me for a while, you know I'm passionate about TG. And just seeing stuff like this, of how little things here and there are removed, it just upsets me quite a bit. Now, I don't expect everything to be in. I don't expect, the cards to be added in. I don't expect, like, little symbolism, like, parallels here and there to be completely accurate to stuff from, Part 1. I don't expect that one by one, like, complete perfect adaptation. But when it comes to certain character traits, like hair color, to just putting your hand on your freaking chin, I expect that, at the very least, to be added in. But they couldn't even follow the basics of doing something like that, which it just shows that they truly don't really understand or comprehend what Tokyo Ghoul is really about. They're more focused on action than anything else, and they don't really give a crap about anything else. Now, before I end this, I do want to say that the music, like the OST at the end of the episode with Toka and all that popping up in Tokyo Ghoul Re, the music was beautiful. I'm not gonna deny that. It was probably the best part of the episode just because of how it sounded, and I want more of that. I want more music of that. If there's one thing I definitely know when it comes to the, Tokyo Ghoul anime series, is that music is always just completely spot on. But that's about it. So, my thoughts on episode 2, it's better than the previous episodes. It's better than the previous 2 seasons, all combined, in my personal opinion, but at the end of the day, I still believe that this episode could have been a lot better, but it is a step in the right direction, and I do hope that Studio Clown does learn from this episode and tries to make it even better than it is. So, yeah, we have concluded Volume 1 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, so now we're moving into Volume 2. So, let's see what they do next. Let's see how much they adapt. I mean, if I had to assume anything, if they're going to adapt this, like, kind of correctly, then that means we're going to be getting the start of the auction, and we're also going to be getting the Sasako as well next episode. So, look forward to that. So, I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Chibi out.